I hope you enjoyed my little Hado video. Our first talk today is from Enrico, and he's going to be presenting his research. He will be going live in just a second. You can hopefully see him on his presentation on screen, and I'll be passing over to him in just a second. Thank you very much. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, great that I have the opportunity to share my work here with all of you. And what you can see on the screen is my framework that I developed, and it is called Stacked. And what Stacked is and what it is all about will be the main target for the next roughly 25 minutes. Stacked shall be a learning ecosystem for sustainable team growth in esports. I would just dive into that. But before I do this, tell you a bit about myself. So the handsome looking guy on the right side, that's myself, speaking with a microphone. My scientific background is I have a bachelor degree in business computer science, I have a master degree in IT management, and the role that I currently perform is I'm an IT product manager for an HR IT application. And I worked for more than 10 years within IT projects, and not only normal IT project, but agile IT projects. And this will immediately lead to the reason why I take care of this whole topic of having a framework developed. Next to that, if I'm not here as an IT project manager, I am also a football coach. And I'm not talking about the sport that the US colleagues call football, where you don't have the ball at your feet, but mainly in your hand. Really European football, like we have mainly in the UK, where this sport was born. And next to that, I'm also a gamer at heart. And I cannot highlight that enough. Yesterday, I was thinking about a fun fact about this. I was counting 7 consoles at home. And recently, I'm heavily addicted to Hades 2. And everyone who has not tried that game yet, I can only emphasize to use it and give it at least a try. And in my background of my whole research, I'm striving to obtain my doctoral in philosophy at the University of Agder, where I'm currently connected as an associate researcher. And this is the main reason why I'm here today, because I want to present you my research that I've started. And what is the scientific gap that I'm focusing on? So why does this matter that we focus on Stacked and what I've worked on? Not only myself, but several of you as well, we figured out that esport teams face relentless pressure. We have meta volatility, we have fragmented learning, and the structures that we have are often ad hoc. We have a high cognitive load, we have rapid patches, and if I remember my favorite esport game, for example, League of Legends, for a couple of months, I was heavily involved in getting up to the current meta and to check what has changed due to the most recent patches that came in. And as well, if you go into really training, you most have informal coaching, and you have reactive reviews, and they dominate, especially when you look into grassroots teams. When you go into more pro teams, it's a bit different. But yeah, especially for semi-pro and grassroots teams, this is quite dominating. And this is the main pressure point for many of us. Burnout and inconsistency are recurring outcomes that we see. And what is the gap in the field? If we try to use something from the traditional sports models, this does not transfer. And if I say, okay, this is then not sports, maybe it's more IT project management, you see that your agile-like behaviors, they are there informally, but they lack the scaffolding here. And this is the scientific gap that I want to tackle. And this whole stack development is a part of a journey. And I just want to highlight 2 papers that I already worked on. The first paper was to connect Scrum. Like I said before, I'm deeply into agile software development, and Scrum is my framework to go most of the time. And I created a correlation between Scrum and learning. And this paper is currently in the 2nd review. Last status was just minor revisions necessary with the learning organization, and I hope this will be published soon, hopefully latest beginning of next year. And based on that, to say, okay, now Scrum has a correlation to learning. I tried to connect Scrum and esports practices to see, okay, maybe there are things that are used in both worlds. And this paper is submitted to the International Journal of Esports, and are also there want to emphasize, if someone has this in his peer review, please prioritize. I would be very happy. Jokes aside, both of these foundations have lead into the stacked framework. And next to that, just to give you a highlight of the theories that I'm using here, the stacked framework has 4 dimensions that were quite influential here. The first thing is organizational learning. There I was using Agiris and Schön, which have this concept of double loop learning and single loop learning. That learning is an iterative loop, and also the learning dimensions of a learning organization from Senji that I used and are quite influenced here within the stack framework. On the other hand, keep staying with learning first. I have the concept of experimental learning, which has been developed by Kolb, and this is also an influence here. And then on the other hand, the agile, like I called it, world, and where I use Scrum, Schwaber and Sutherland are the ones that developed the Scrum guide. Of course, this was an influence factor here for the stacked framework. And as well, and this is for me the most interesting part, I have to admit, everything around team psychology and more important, psychological safety that has been populated by Edmondson is an influential factor here in developing the stack framework. So what I did was I used the design science research. So phase 1 was to extract the design principles. And for me, that was quite easy because yeah, these have been worked on in my previous papers already. And I just gave you a small glimpse of what I've used here. The next phase then will be the contextual translations to esports, which is partially already been done in the second paper to say, okay, which of these principles do we see within esport teams? And then the phase 3 is the framework constructions and mapping of all those aspects. I also have a couple of assumptions. First thing is the knowledge can be generated through contribution and justification. So I know that this whole area of esports and how teams are currently organizing, this is under-researched. I definitely have to say that, and therefore we will give this a try. And this will lead directly to the other core assumptions that the conceptual rigor must precede empirically generalizability in under-researched domains. I know that this is the case, and this leads to the third assumption. The design validity is ensured through construct alignment, internal coherence, and logical consistency with foundational theory, more than having really empirical evidence already in the esports area. Because what I see is it's not much there. So we will give it a try and find out that this concept is in itself valid and makes sense and could be found somewhere else. And then you will see that later when it comes to the next steps. We want to give this a try and see if it's working or not. So what is Stacked? Stacked is a structured, agile, inspired learning framework tailored for esports teams designed to support continuous individual and collective skill development. What is part of Stacked? Stacked has 3 team roles. The squad strategist, who is kind of the overall, I don't want to call him project lead, but the overall overseer of all activities. He's taking care of the priorities, what we train first. He's taking care of the strategy that we have. Then we have the learning coach, who's kind of orchestrating all the activities that you will see on the next slide, what is Stacked all about. And of course, the most important and the most fun part, the players. On the other hand, we have 5 events. 2 are on demand and 3 are regular events, and you will see them on the next page. And we have 3 artifacts where I'm quite proud about that we developed that. The first thing is the mental meter, because we see there is a definite need to check the mental stress for all our players. Then we have the quest log that everyone is able to see what we are working on, and the skill tracker to see, okay, where have I developed? And it is transparent for everyone. So for me, it is a statement that a stacked team doesn't just win, they evolve. And this is also my philosophy as a soccer or a football coach. I don't want to win every game. It's nice when it happens aside, but my goal is to make every player better. So what is Stacked all about? The level loop. You here see the direct connection to Scrum, if you're into Scrum, where you also have a Scrum sprint, and there are several events within that sprint. And this is kind of the same here in Stacked. So what we have first is a level 0. Why is it called level 0? Because it's some kind of your first try, get to know each other. Within that level 0, you come together as a team and first time decide on who's taking which role, who has which strengths and weaknesses. So really doing first skill assessment. Where do I see myself? Let's take the example of League of Legends. Am I good at position top lane? Am I good at position AD carry? This could be at that level, but you could also go down, and this is pretty open to every team that wants to use it. But you could also go down into more details like I'm good on that champ on that position, but I'm not that good on that one. But the most important point here is to create the first level of transparency for all your teammates. Where do you see yourself? So that from that starting point on, everyone can check that and validate that based on multi-source feedback. What we also do within that, we set certain rules of communication. We also set certain rules of how do we want to perform all other events that will follow. So really the level 0 is let's come together and let's do a first start. This level 0 is not just a one-time event. This is why I called it on the slide before on demand. This happens every time a new player comes into your team, because skills you need to kind of compare you to others. And maybe this new player leads up that you see yourself lower than him in your wage, or that you once again need to create the transparency within the team. With one player, it's not that big, but imagine you are in a new season, you're in a new split where you have to evaluate your whole team, and therefore this level 0 is absolutely crucial to get everyone on the same page. Then the next thing is the quest planning. The quest planning is, the current idea is you create the quests and the task and activities you want to do within the next 2 weeks. And it's not just like, let's do practice. It's more like, let's practice on this specific thing. The squad strategist is the one that is giving the direction to say, okay, these are the things we need to work on. But this could also be the case that you say, okay, now within the next 2 weeks, I focus on my mental recovery because I feel that I have a lot on my table currently and I need to focus on this. And even though it could be the case that you say, oh, maybe there is a strategy that I have to work on. Also important here, create transparency about all the activities you want to work on and that everyone on the team has a view on this. Then we have the daily buff, a daily reconnect, where we say, okay, let's come together and discuss what have we done yesterday, what are we doing tomorrow. It doesn't necessarily need to be daily, like 7 days a week, but it could be daily, and more ideal, you should find something that fits for you. For a professional esports team that are doing this as their main thing, it could be the case that they really meet 5 to 7 times a week. But for friends who are just having a not super regular exchange on gaming, it could be enough that you have this 2 times a week. But this should be the absolutely minimum of having a 2 times a week connect. What we then have, and this is directly connected to each other, is the round recap. Every time you have a game, after the game, you come together and say, okay, what worked good, what worked bad, what do we need to do differently in future? And this could also lead into, especially when you have a short time frame between the games, could also lead into the situation that you reevaluate your priorities. You don't no longer focus on that the strategy that you're targeting for is the highest priority, but maybe you find out after a round recap that your team is not in the best shape, so you need to prioritize more like team recovery. Within real sports, I would like to call it, you say after an exercise that was high intense, you need 84 hours to fully recover and restart. We don't know any numbers yet when it comes to mental focusing sport like esports here, but it is definitely more than just 12 hours or something, or many times it is 24 hours until you have the next game. So you really have to check, okay, what do I need to recover within my team? I just recently was reading a funny story that there was one person who was holding the camera the cat into the camera every time after a match to mentally reset everyone and just to make them smile. These are those things that you maybe prioritize then. And what kind of strategies you have would be something that you within the quest planning decide on, okay, which strategies do we want to proceed with? Then after the 2 weeks time frame that you had quest planning, like I said before, this could also be based on your needs, a 1 week time frame, or it could also be a 4-week time frame. You will have the XP boost. What will happen during that XP boost? 3 things mainly. First of all, you say, okay, which of those topics that I worked on are done, and I want to go to the next activity. I also can do kind of the skill update. For example, my focus was to focus on a specific role, on a specific scheme, and this has been trained, and everyone agrees, okay, you now reached another level of this skill. And then we do kind of the XP boost and update our skill tree. The next point is we work also on the topics, okay, team internally, what worked good and what worked not so super good. That we really focus on, hey, you weren't participating in our daily meeting. Hey, you were always negative within the round recap. These are the things that you talk about in the XP boost. And the third topic, which is for me something very special, is the mental stress meter that we have, the mental meter that I developed. This is a questionnaire, quick and dirty. You don't need more than 5 minutes. And you answer that and you receive something like a traffic light where you are. Are you at a very red mental stress level? Are you in a yellow one or in a green one? And this will be shared with the learning coach. And the learning coach then decides on, okay, does it make sense to coach this person to go into a different direction when it comes to priorities for the next sprint or the next level loop? Why stacked? We see the challenge of inefficient practice, unclear roles, and the mental stress. And the need for structure, better onboarding, mental sustainability, and measurable growth is something that Stack offers. Like I explained, it is bringing the structure. The level 0 is creating a better onboarding than before. The mental sustainability due to the mental meter is there, and the growth can be measured due to the skill tracker that we have, and we really focus on these topics. And now coming to the end of my presentation, what we're doing way forward. Currently, I am piloting this with a student team at the University of Agder. And I am looking for interested teams who are committed to join Stacked and want to try this in their environment. It doesn't necessarily need to be a pro team, semi-pro or university team. Every team that wants to at least give this a try, you can use this QR code that you see on the screen. It will directly lead you to the Discord. And within that Discord, there is I would call it something like a short presentation that is explaining Stacked in more detail and every of the events that I have explained you. And you see that on the right side, we have a step-by-step tutorial. I know it's quite overwhelming. I think it's 15 to 18 pages, but there's everything explained how you can use Stacked for your specific team. What I want to do then is I want to have 2 questionnaires. First of all, I want to do a 0-point measurement. So before you adapt Stacked, that you answer questions and say, where do I see my team currently? Because this could be absolutely different to what Stacked is currently, but it could also be the case that certain areas like a round recap, like a daily, like a planning, what are we doing in the next 2 weeks, are already existing in your area. So I want to have a measurement of where do you are today, and after a couple of months, and currently I'm thinking of 3 months, maybe even longer, a period of 6 months. I want to do that questionnaire as well, but now you are stacked and using Stacked, and we compare the results to see which input or which impact does Stack have for you and your team. With that said, I'm at the end of my time box for the presentation, and yeah, I'm looking forward to your questions.
Hello, Enrico. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Quite a bit quiet, but
Hello.
I can change that. Yeah, now it's
Hope
better.
everything's okay. I'm listening to two different versions at the same time, so hopefully it will come through. Oh, there we go. I can see you on camera now, Enrico. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, I don't think you can hear me, which
I,
is a
I
bit
can
of
hear you. I can hear
an
you.
issue. Give me 2 seconds.
Hmm.
Oh, perfect. I've just said that about 3 times. I'm sorry, I've just got a bit of delay on my stream on my phone here. So my question to you is, I've had a few questions on chat, and I've had a few things in relation to what I'm interested in as a coach and as a performance analyst. So so my question to you is gamification. So how would you implement gamification in Stacked?
As of today, I would not specifically head into gamification. So there are certain activities that are kind of gamification. If you look into the skill tracker, where you can create a fancy skill tree, like you have to go here, then you go into the next direction. So this is something that you could use. Except that, of course, the terms are purely gamified if you want so. But from the first version of this framework, there are no other aspects. But of course, this is
Ooh, I've
the
got
alpha version,
disconnection
maybe
issue.
beta version, and this is something that can grow in future, of course, based on the feedback that we will receive during all the teams coming towards me and giving me their feedback, what they think could be beneficial to the framework.
Okay, I'm having a little bit of disconnection issue, so I'm going to ask my last question because of just don't want to interrupt you. So, and my last question to you is, where can you see Stacked being used at Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 esports? And how would you see Stacked being moved as a methodology moving forward? And thank you very much, Enrico. After this, we'll go to a short intermission, but please feel free to answer your question.
Of course, I can see this in any of those tier levels. I see it in a tier 1 team that is performing with that. I see it in a tier 2 team and of course in a tier 3 team. They might have different needs, but this is why it is a framework. It's not super structured. It gives you a lot of freedom and you could use that for every team you want. And therefore I see that in all of those teams. And my vision is that a lot of teams are working with this framework and get better over time because it solves a lot of their issues that they have right now. And even more important, I also see a big benefit that single players who don't have a team currently can use that to structure themselves because there's a lot of opportunities that someone is organizing themselves based on this framework, and it makes them more attractive to bring that into teams and say, hey, I have a clear approach how to tackle certain things. Maybe that could be beneficial to your team. And this is also something for single players that they have an extra unique selling point for them towards teams and implement the framework here. This is my vision, and this is kind of my dream to bring this to life.